Joining me right now is surging UFC lightweight Drew Dober. What's going on, Drew?
Thank you for having me, man. I feel fantastic.
Let's get into it right away. At the beginning of this year, you signed a major management deal. How has that impacted your athletic career so far?
It's pretty fresh right now. It's new, and so we're still kind of waiting to see the changes. But I mean, they're telling me a lot of big things, and they've already done a couple things for other fighters, and so I'm just looking forward to riding the wave.
Yeah, it seemed like they haven't been doing big things. Eddie Alvarez is part of that group. Ballengee Group, if nobody knows. Yeah, he got a big deal with one championship, so it's kind of the future looks bright for you.
Right. And they have a ton of resources. It's a group of guys, and so it's technically an agency, and they've worked with other professional sports. I guess really big on baseball. And so they're just bringing in all the resources of other, professional leagues to MMA. And I'm just excited to see kind of, their ideas and their plans for everyone.
Yeah, definitely next level stuff for you. Now,
Right.
UFC debut, you made it in 2013. You have 11 fights in the books. Looking back at what you have been through, what fight changed you the most for the better, do you believe?
God, there's so many, man. Like when you talk about individual fights to a fighter, they're all like little babies that we like, cherishing and keeping memorable. I think right off the top of my head, I think my fight with Jamie Varner. I think I entered the UFC not with the greatest record. I was like 0-2, and I had the opportunity to fight a previous world champion and a guy that I watched growing up, and so I was all over that opportunity, and then that win kind of proved to myself that it's like it's my time now, and it's my time to kind of come into my own and make waves.
Your last fight against John Tuck, you said you learned to be in the moment. When did you realize that was something you needed to grasp?
Being, I always consider myself a perfectionist, and I have some high standards for myself. And what that kind of translates into is a kind of like a gym anxiety. It's I have all these expectations of my performance and how I should be and all that stuff. And it gets to a point where I stopped thinking about my current round and I started thinking about like the second or the third round or even my next training session or even like last week or even next week. Or it just like things just started to build and seem big. So then I've been working with a man named Joey, is a mental coach, and he kind of just really talked me through just bringing everything back into the moment, into the now. And what that really has helped me do is just solving the immediate problems at hand, and then not dwelling on the problems that may not ever exist. So going into the fight with John Tuck, it was while I was in the locker room, all I was thinking about was the locker room. When I was in the pit, when I heard my name called, when I heard my intro music, when I saw all the fans and the lights, and like I can truly appreciate it and be in that moment and be in the now, because I'm not going to knock out John Tuck while I'm entering the cage. So why am I worrying about it? And then once I was in the cage, I mean, Bruce Buffer has to do his thing, and like I need to appreciate and live in the moment. And so as soon as that fight starts and we tap gloves, every fighter would love to get like a 2-second knockout, but I mean, it probably won't happen. And so like as soon as we tap gloves, we got to start setting things up. And setting things up is I got to move my feet, keep my hands up, let's start moving my head, and that's the stuff I need to be worrying about in that moment. And then the knockout will eventually happen.
When you have those levels of stress, it's a lot of energy being expelled out of your body. Did you feel like you had more energy in the fights because you realized that you had to be in the moment?
Yes. I think the big fight that comes to mind is my last loss against Olivier. And in that fight, I just could not control just the mindset. My mind was all over the place. And like both positive and negative, it was like swinging like a pendulum. It was like I was either overexcited or just like over nervous, and like I couldn't control that. And so, even just rewatching that fight, just the look on my face and just like my demeanor, like I wasn't myself. And so after that fight, I've done everything I can to pretty much just be myself, exaggerate, how I feel I should act or like how I, perform the best, and then let things go from there.
Yeah, after that fight, you have turned a corner. You have done incredible 3 straight wins over really good competition. Now, when you look at your fight coming up with Beniel Dariush, right? What do you see of what challenges does he pose for you?
Oh man, a ton. I had the privilege of watching him fight live, and I've always been just I admired him. I think one of his biggest strengths is his composure. It's he always keeps a calm, relaxed look on his face, and I mean he maintains like that output or throughout like the entire fight. And of course his Muay Thai is good. He's I think a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, so he's posed a lot of problems. But I feel I'm better, and I'm better in like every aspect of the sport. And John Tuck was a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, and it didn't faze me. And that's the moment where I'm at now, where it's just like I can admire people, but I can no longer give them the respect in the cage. Because it's like I know without a doubt that no matter where the fight takes place, first round, second round, third round, ground or standing, like I can hang with the best in the world. And going into that fight and just being in the moment, having fun, and then just knowing I can hang, like the fight's gonna be fantastic.
MMA is all about advantages and inches and stuff like that. And when you're facing a southpaw, what advantages do you see in yourself against someone like that?
Not to get, let's get pretty technical, but being a southpaw as a southpaw, now both of us are closer to the rear hand. So I always feel that when a southpaw is fighting an orthodox fighter, that power weapon you have is like a longer distance to travel. So when they switch their stance, now it's a little bit closer to me. So the pros are the punches I like throwing are more readily available for me. But I think the con would be for both of us, like you don't see a lot of southpaws in training, and so even fighting another southpaw is still just as weird.
All right. You said training is going well. It's a new year. There's all this new types of technology out there, different types of training methods. Have you added anything to your regimen?
Oh man, I'm so incredibly lucky and privileged to be in Denver, Colorado, because we're getting the top end type of stuff out here. I'm working with the Resilience Code, and Resilience Code teamed up with Landau Performance. Lauren Landau is the strength and conditioning coach for the Denver Broncos. They teamed up, and so now it's just like my strength and conditioning is just full of like just science and math, and like they just have this formula, and on top of that they're looking over at us as far as like the mental side of the game. They look over for concussions, any sort of like injury prevention or even injury recovery after fights. It's all done in this one building. And of course they got the hot tub, cold tub, sauna, like everything that an athlete needs. So, I mean, I'm quite privileged to be in this location.
Definitely. It seems like you don't even have to go to the UFC PI. You got everything there.
I think the only difference is they have it all in one building, and I might have to drive a little bit. But, yeah, we have everything here in Denver.
Well, in Denver, who have you been working with closely to prepare for Dariush?
Oh, man, we got a handful of guys. It's a name dropping. I'm always working with Neil Magny, Justin Gaethje. Him and I have some tough rounds, but a lot of like top up and comers. Austin, who is just now the LFA champion at lightweight. We got Carrington Banks, who was he was on the Ultimate Fighter between American Top Team and I think Black Zillions.
Yes.
Like just really, really talented individuals at Team Elevation. And plus, we have a lot of gyms here in Denver, and then we were like cross-train with like Factory X or, a couple other guys. So just my opportunities of getting beat up are limitless out here.
Especially with Justin Gaethje, you guys are in the same division. You guys are probably so competitive in working out with each other. How are those, rounds with him?
I mean, I think people would pay money and bring popcorn for our sparring sessions. The dude's a gangster. Like, he spars like he fights, and it's pretty entertaining. And I pride myself in being entertaining too, as well. So it's definitely a lot of fun. But we're friends. We're teammates first, and so we try to take care of each other. We don't want to trade concussions too often. But it's great.
You are sitting on the edge of the rankings. Do you believe you're at the point to where guys in the top 15 are ducking you because it is too risky of a fight?
I would say I am a risky fight. I think my talent and then where I'm at in the rankings, they don't match. But I just got to be patient. The time will be right, and I think this Dariush fight is a fantastic opportunity for me. I'm going to go in there, perform at my best, and then any other sort of opportunity presents itself. I don't turn down fights. I'll take anyone in the top 10, top 15, even when I'm in the top 5. I'll still fight guys lower ranked than me. I want to have a long legacy of fantastic fights, and if I'm just waiting for a title shot, that's not going to happen. So I'm a company man. I compare myself to a Donald Cerrone that I'll just take fights and have entertaining fights, and I think that's what the fans want to see.
Do you see anybody in the top 15 that shouldn't be there?
Oh God, I don't really obsess over the top 15. So like I couldn't even tell you who's up there. I know there's I think my biggest problem with the rankings right now is just kind of like the cork at the top. There's like we don't know like what's gonna happen with the champion. We don't know who's next for the championship bout, and like I'm not a huge fan of that little top confusion. But no, I honestly think that everyone up there deserves to be up there, and I think there's a lot of people that aren't up there that need to be up, like that deserve to be up there too. The lightweight division in the UFC is killer's row. There's so many guys out there.
Yeah, the stagnation at the top of the division is a terrible situation right now, but it can be an opportunity for you. How does it impact you for a fighter in your position?
So I talk about this with my teammates, and in my opinion, the rankings don't mean anything. Rankings can change, and it really doesn't matter because it's if you are a fantastic fighter, you can be ranked 9 and get a title shot. TJ Dillashaw fought some guy defending his title, and I don't think he was even ranked. It was just like opportunities present themselves, and the only thing I can control right now is I'm going to go out there, put my hands on some people, make fights entertaining, and they'll put whatever number in front of me. But if I just keep winning and winning fantastically, you cannot deny me opportunities.
You have been a big proponent of the 165-pound division in the past. Do you still believe this will happen?
It has to happen eventually. I think right now the UFC loves holding on to that nostalgia of like the 170 division, but once more and more athletes are coming into MMA and more talent and more names, like they're gonna need to have more opportunities to like feed these superstars. And having a weight class every 10 pounds is, I think, a brilliant way. And then, benefit for the athletes. I mean, you have guys that are too small for 70 but too big for 55, me being one of them. It's like I'm going to have to make a significant cut to 55, but I'm not big enough to fight 170. I mean, to be on the top end. It's like, I stand next to Tyrone Woodley, and I'm not that big, right? And so it's either I'm going to put in the necessary work in my weight cut to make the 155 so I can perform at my best, or I just have to suck it up and admit to myself that I'm just going to be a small end of the spectrum at welterweight. We saw with Dos Anjos, he's talented, but he's still getting out-muscled. And so I feel like that's where I would fall into as well.
You got a lot of guys campaigning it just like you are. Askren was talking about a USA versus Russia 165-pound tournament. Would that interest you?
That would be fantastic. The idea of having like a USA Russia like a dual format would be fantastic. It would be super intense. I'd be all over that.
All right, one thing before I let you go, what can fans expect out of you for the rest of the year?
More fights. I'm signing contracts with the Ballengee Group to get me more fights. So I just want to be in the cage, be in front of the camera, and be under the limelight more often. So that way, this time is short being an athlete, and I just want to take every possible moment to showcase my abilities. So let's try to get 4 or 5 fights in this year.
All right, it all starts on March 9th, UFC on ESPN Plus 4 in Wichita, Kansas. Thank you, Drew, for your time, and good luck on your next fight.
Thank you so much, guys.